Hello Curious, and welcome back. As you can imagine, being the head of the state might not be the easiest job for many reasons, and there's always a lot of work to do, constant pressure from people in other countries, and not to mention that sometimes someone might even attempt to take your life or endanger it in one way or another. And here it turns out that not even Queen Elizabeth is exempt from it. And ruling the United Kingdom for 69 years, the 95-year-old has secured herself a place in history as the longest reigning monarch and the oldest reigning monarch. But did you know that in the past, she had quite a few close calls? Some had played out in front of thousands of people, while some had come light years later. And what happened with the attempts on the Queen's life? Did the culprits get caught? And did any other members of the royal family find themselves in similar situations that put their lives in danger? You better stay with us until the very end to find out about all of these surely terrifying times for the royal family. But before we continue, don't forget to turn on the notifications so you don't miss any of our future videos. While attempts to end a monarch's lives in the past have been a constant threat to them throughout history, with the modern days and the technology that we have and the big presence of armed forces and security, the fact that when it comes to the British monarchy, things are closely monitored and checked, and it makes all the things scarier and shocking to learn how somehow someone had come close to Elizabeth II or any other member of the family, and it most certainly puts more stress on the security team for sure. But how close have some people come in the past? One attempt on the life of Queen Elizabeth and Prince Philip, which is known as the Lithgow Plot, happened in April of 1970 while the couple was traveling via rail from Sydney, Australia, through the Blue Mountains near Lithgow into South Wales, Orange, when the train nearly struck a log. Now, fortunately for the royal couple, the train operator at the wheel was Albert Rowley, who, due to the fact that for some reason the train was traveling slower than normal, had managed to pull the brakes just in time to avoid a possible tragedy. Now, we know what some of you might think curious, and surely the log could have wound up on the tracks due to many various reasons, strong wind, maybe even some kind of animals, right? But as it turned out, the tracks had been checked just an hour prior to the incident, so it was thought that the log was placed there on purpose as the royal train was supposed to pass. No one was ever convicted as there was nothing to go on. It was still marked as an assassination attempt on the monarch and her husband. Experts had revealed to the Telegraph that the train had been going on at a full speed. It could have derailed the train, which could have resulted in a tragedy. And while this took place back in 1970, the news didn't become public until 2009 when a retired detective spoke out about the incident, breaking the decades of silence agreed upon by the local police and press. And as it turned out, the royals and the palace were reportedly unaware of the incident. In the year that the information became public, Buckingham Palace refused to comment on it. However, Rowley was given an Imperial Service Medal back in '74 for recognition of meritorious service, which he has rendered. Though while this was something that the Queen herself might not have been aware of at the time, it does not mean that there weren't any attempts of which she was not only aware of, but which had happened in front of thousands of people. And one of the most famous and most talked about ones happened during the annual Trooping of the Colour Parade, and which is also the day of the Queen's official birthday. And if you want to know more about how the monarch usually celebrates, you can check out our previous video by clicking on the link above, but for now, make sure you stay with us until the very end. And now, let's go back not only to our topic, but also to June 13th of 1981 and the Trooping the Colour Parade that took place that day. It was during that time that the Queen, instead of being in the parade in a horse-drawn carriage, would ride on a horse herself wearing a military uniform. And it was when she was riding her 19-year-old Burmese horse, 17-year-old Marquis Sargeant fired 6 blank shots at the Queen. Elizabeth II remained remarkably calm as the police wrestled him to the ground. Though what is interesting is that in the past, Marcus has expressed interest in the armed forces, and he had a stint in the Royal Marines, but reportedly left due to bullying and did a 2-day induction course for the army. He has also failed applications to join for the police and the fire service, and after that he took up a job at the zoo before ending up employed in the 1981 parade. And as his friends reported to the press at the time, a year prior he had joined the AntiRoyalist movement, and as reported by the British press, this might have been something that he was planning for a while, as he originally tried to find ammunition for his father's weapons before joining a local club to get his own license. In the run-up to the ceremony, he had set a photo of himself with the weapon of 2 magazines, as well as a letter to Buckingham Palace, which allegedly read, and we quote, "Your Majesty, "Don't go to the trooping of the color ceremony because there is an assassin set to kill you, waiting just outside the palace." And the letter did in the end reach the palace, but on June 16th, 3 days after the accident. And it was also reported that the 17-year-old was very much interested in the incidents that took the life of John Lennon and John F. Kennedy, and he was later jailed for 5 years under the Treason Act and was released in October of 1984. Though while all ended well and the person was arrested, it doesn't mean that at the moment the situation wasn't terrifying. But speaking about that day, Prince Charles had said that his mother is made with some strong stuff. However, could it be that this event had inspired someone else to try? And as we say this, because only 4 months after, on October 14th, the Queen and her husband Prince Philip were visiting New Zealand when another 17-year-old had the same idea. Though his idea was to hide in an empty toilet stall on the 5th floor of a building in Dunedin, and Louis took aim as the royal couple got out of the Rolls Royce, but fortunately for the monarch he missed, and police had later revealed that his intent was to end the Queen's life. And Christopher John Lewis was arrested 8 days after the incident. He was sentenced for possession as the police were worried that this would have scared the royals and that they wouldn't visit the country anymore. And they blamed the sound on a sign falling over and kept it under wraps. Lewis served 3 years in prison, with the last part in a psychiatric ward. Later, he even had his sights set on Prince Charles in 1983 when he and Princess Diana visited the country in 1983 and even tried to unsuccessfully escape the psychiatric ward. And as we mentioned, the police tried to cover this up, and the information was classified until February of 2018 according to Reuters, and they were released in response to a request from the Fairfax media. And this is a second attempt on the Queen's life that was hidden from her. And do you think there are many more, but they are all just classified? While events like this that happen in public are surely terrifying, what about if they happen in the privacy of one's room, where they are just one-on-one with the intruder? Well, this is exactly what happened to Elizabeth II in 1982. A man had actually broken into her bedroom with a broken piece from a glass ashtray. And yes, that did happen. Michael Fagan wandered into Buckingham Palace on July 9th that year, though even the intentions of the intruder to having the broken glass were unclear to him. He later said that the idea formed in his mind for the first time when he saw the ashtray, and it was reported that then he had pulled back the curtains where the Queen was sleeping and that she had successfully managed to stall him while the security arrived. And if you want to know more about the incident, then you can check out our previous video about it. As further proof that the 80s were a bad time for the monarch, the following month a woman broke onto the grounds of the royal family's Scottish Highlands estate, Balmoor Castle, while Elizabeth II was there. And according to the reports from The Sun at the time, she was shouting, "I must see the Queen." The details of how that happened and others associated with it remained secret, and all that was announced was that she was arrested. Though it's not just the Queen that has been in danger. In 1974, there was an attempt kidnapping of Princess Anne while she was returning from a charity event. Just like her mother had stalled Fagin, Anne did the exact same thing and kept the kidnapper, Ian Ball, talking while waiting for help to arrive. It was then that she had famously said upon being asked to get out of the car, "Not bloody likely." But if you'd like to know more about that incident and why many consider her their favorite royal, check out our video dedicated to the princess by clicking on the link above. Most recently, and several days ago to be exact, her brother Prince Andrew had also had a scare as a woman broke onto the grounds of his house. But how did she manage it? Well, reportedly, she told security guards that she was there to have lunch with him. And as you can imagine, the fact that she was able to wander around the grounds for 20 minutes had sparked a major security threat. And she was only arrested and sanctioned under the Mental Health Act after she went inside to ask a member of the staff where the prince was. And according to The Sun, she claimed to have been engaged to him and said that her name was Irene Windsor. Though the scary thing is that in her bag, they had found a map of the Royal Lodge in Windsor Great Park, along with those of the royal residencies, and she was also smartly dressed, which is why the guards believed her, and she said that she was the prince's friend, and even paid for her taxi when asked to do so. So curious, do you think that someone might be losing their job over this? Though threatening messages and letters is nothing new that Buckingham Palace has to deal with, and be it from people in the country or allegedly from extremist groups, one man named Robert James Moore had reportedly sent hundreds of strange and offensive packages to the Queen over the period of 15 years, which according to the Mirror included obscene photographs, and some of the letters were even over 600 pages long. And to make things a bit more strange and morbid, 3 years after he last contacted the royals, Scotland Yard police had found his skeleton concealed on the West Island in St. James Park, and only about 100 yards from Buckingham Palace. Police reports have revealed that the 69-year-old was an American royal fanatic who was also mentally ill, and they believe that he moved to London in 2007 and set up camp on that small island, and as per the reports, he passed away sometime in 2008. And while nothing actually had happened, the thought alone could send a shiver down anyone's spine. So curious, do you think that there had been more attempts like this that have been hidden from the public? Do you think that these happened due to the problems with security or just incidents no one could have predicted? Do you know any other events like that? Let us know in the comments below, and as always, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel so that you don't miss any of our future videos. Until next time!